Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. We have a lot to get to today, including an interview with Congressman Jared Moskowitz. But first, after more than 15 years in Congress and a career of public service that spans decades, Frederica Wilson announced on Friday that she would not be running for re-election to Congress.
This has been a journey, but it's time. It's time. And I know all of you are wondering, what is the Congresswoman going to do? Well, the Congresswoman is going to not seek another term. Even leather wears out.
The 83-year-old Wilson made clear she was not retiring, and she discussed what comes next and how she plans to expand her 5,000 Role Models of Excellence program across the country.
So, I'm not going to retire. I am going to travel the country, expanding the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project. The people who call our office every day asking, how do we get a program in our school district? That is what I'm going to do. I want to thank all of you for trusting me, for giving me the honor of serving you all of these years. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for this wonderful, wonderful blessing of serving you for over 33 years. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Now her decision will set off a political fight to succeed her. County Commissioner Oliver Gilbert, State Senator Chevron Jones, and Miami physician Dr. Rudy Muiz are among the immediate candidates to take her place. We will have a lot more on that race in the weeks ahead. But one politician who is running for re-election is Jared Moskowitz. Moskowitz announced last week that he was running in the newly redrawn Congressional District 25. This district was created by Governor DeSantis and the legislature to favor a Republican candidate, and Donald Trump won it by 10 points in 2024. Shortly after his announcement, I spoke to Moskowitz about the challenges he'll face. Congressman, thank you for joining us. Obviously, I want to talk to you about your decision to run for re-election, but before that, I do want to get your reaction to the decision by longtime Congresswoman Frederica Wilson not to seek re-election. What's your reaction to that?
Well, obviously, South Florida thanks her for her long service to the district. By the way, before she was a congresswoman, she was a principal, and she had continued helping kids. Even while a congressperson, she had focused on helping kids in her district for the longest time who came from, troubled socioeconomic backgrounds. And so, look, she made this decision on her own. It's been a big topic up in Washington, right, about people, leaving and, turning it over to the next generation. And that's what Frederica's doing. And so, as a Democrat who's known her for a long period of time, we thank her for her service. And we will miss her, and we will miss her hats, of course.
Of course, yes. All right, so now let's turn to your race. You obviously had a decision to make. I think your house is actually drawn in District 22, but after all the redistricting that Governor DeSantis and the Florida legislature did to try to break up your district and to try to favor Republicans in future races, why the decision to run in District 25 as opposed to, say, District 22?
Sure. Well, District 25 has 50% of my current district. It's where the majority of my district currently is. In 25, all they did was take a pen and just draw my house out. I mean, literally, my house is touching District 25. It was clearly done intentionally so because they didn't want me to run in 25, a district that fits my political background. It's a third Democrat, a third Republican, and a third independent. And so this is the pinkest district in the state. And it is a district that I have long ties to, obviously representing 50% of it currently in Congress and working with the rest of it, Jim, when I was the director of emergency management during COVID, obviously working with all the hospitals, working with all the cities and the counties. It's a 3-county district now: Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade. It's got 65 miles of coastline. It looks like a hurricane district, by the way. And so, this is where I'm going to be running. I think I fit this district more than almost anyone who could have put their name forward. And I look forward to winning District 25 and representing folks in Broward, Dade, and Palm Beach County.
I remember a story we worked on back when you were working in the DeSantis administration, making sure that even though the governor didn't want testing sites during COVID in Miami Beach, you figured out a way to get around that and get those in there. So that's a little bit of history for you with the district as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, again, Miami Beach, the Miami Beach Convention Center. In this district, me and the governor, we were the first folks in the country, went into folks who were Holocaust survivors and went into their homes and vaccinated them in their homes so they didn't have to go and sit in a line. We did that in the Miami portion of this district. Additionally, we went to, community centers and senior centers where seniors were, because we focused on seniors with the vaccine first in the nation to do that. The CDC followed us 2 weeks later. I did that in the Miami portion of this district. I went where the seniors were. We partnered with churches and synagogues and made sure that we were going where people were. And so, yeah, I have a long history with that district, these cities in Miami. The collapse in Surfside, which was a terrible event. I was there the next day. It was the MOU that I signed when I was in Israel that allowed the IDF to come and help with the search and rescue efforts in Surfside. And so I know a lot about that district, working with it during COVID, and then obviously the Broward part of the district. I've represented most of that and lived in Broward, my entire life. And then Boca Raton, I've represented for the last 3.5 years in Congress. And so we have a lot of friends there. There's a lot of common goals, what we need to accomplish in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And listen, right now, Florida is hot. A lot of companies want to move here. A lot of businesses are coming. A lot of people are moving here in general with the migration patterns coming from New York and California and other places. And they're coming to Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach.
When we come back, we'll discuss the rise of antisemitism that he and other members of Congress have faced and how that weighed on his decision to run for re-election. Stay with us. Welcome back. We continue now with our conversation with Congressman Jared Moskowitz, talking about DHS reform and the current state of the war with Iran. But we also discuss his decision to go public with some of the disturbing anti-Semitic voicemail messages he regularly receives. One of the things that we've talked about before is the level of anti-Semitism that members of Congress and yourself have faced, and I know that weighed on you. I want to play for a second a little bit of some of the voicemails that I know you've collected over the years, just sort of dealing with the type of vitriol that you sometimes get directed at you. And I want to play that now and get your reaction on the other side.
Funding Israel, stealing more of our money for Israel. Israel, let them burn to the ground. God Jehovah, burn them to the ground in Jesus Christ's precious name.
Israel is an abomination. It's fake. Jews from Europe are fake Jews. Zionism is treason to we the people and our U.S. Constitution. Kill Israel. Kill Jewry. Kill Judaism. If they claim to be God's chosen people, you kill them dead. You kill every Jew.
Congressman, when you hear some of the voicemails that you've received, what's your reaction to them?
Well, Jim, look, as we talk right now, there's a police officer outside my house. Now, when I travel to events, I travel with armed security. When I hold larger events with people, they have to go through magnetometers. And this is because I have a constituent that's now serving 25 years in federal prison because he had an assassination plot against me. I get threats on my social media platforms, voicemails, as you just played. It happens to me daily. It used to be, once in a while. It used to be, something would happen, every now and then. Now it's every day. Threats are every day. The speaker had to create a security package for all of Congress for the events that are happening to me and others. Anti-Semitism is rampant. It's becoming mainstream. It's growing significantly, especially in my party. It's being accepted in order to try to win elections. In fact, we had a representative, thankfully she lost, but in Texas, who suggested Jews go back into internment camps the other day. Jim, this is language I never thought I would hear in America. My grandmother was part of the Kindertransport out of Berlin as a child. Her parents were killed in Auschwitz. Her and her sister survived because good people shipped her on a train and got her out of Berlin. The language I'm seeing today is the same language she told me how it all started in the 30s. And so it's very concerning. It's really the reason, Jim, that I decided that now's not the time to walk away. Now's the time to continue my service in Congress. I got 2 boys. My boys are not going to be hiding in attics. They're not going to hide their Jewish stars. We're not going to stop going to delis and stop going to synagogues because people are trying to scare us. And that's what Jews in this country have to do. We have to go on the offense. We have to stop playing defense. They want us to be scared. They want us to be quiet. And I'm not willing to do that, even though it puts my security at risk.
Do you have a theory as to why we're seeing such an increase on both the right and the left?
Do I have a theory? I mean, I've more than a theory. I mean, listen, our foreign adversaries cannot beat us militarily. We spend, more than 10 times more than all of them combined. But what they can do through social media platforms is they can sell Americans propaganda to get us fighting, to get us hating each other, to create some sort of enemy. And that's what they're doing. China, Russia, the Iranians, the Qataris, they are all weaponized social media. All they do is feed propaganda to Americans all day long to try to create a boogeyman. Oh, tough economic times, blame this portion of the country. Blame 2% of the population. It's their fault why this is happening. Images are fed to people all day long. By the way, there's 1 million people dead probably in the Ukraine-Russia war on both sides. I don't see anything about that on my social media platform. I don't see constant images. I don't hear anything about the 25,000 to 50,000 kids that were kidnapped by the Russians. No pictures, no stories. And so this is unfortunately intentional. It shows the power of social media. You can see it in the differing of the ages between 65 and older and under 40, and how this sort of weaponization is changing thought patterns on stuff. And so this is an intentional psyop, Jim, that's being run in America. It's why getting TikTok out of the hands of the Chinese was very important. But, look, we have a lot of work to do as a result of that in this country. And, I'm going to be one of the people leading the effort on that.
I do want to talk about your reforms proposed for DHS, but I just want to stay with this for one additional second, because I think one of the areas that some people may end up criticizing you on is you are someone who do accept donations from AIPAC. Are you going to continue to take money from AIPAC? And what do you say to those critics who say that AIPAC has been a malevolent force here in the United States in many congressional races?
Yeah. Am I going to take donations from Jewish Americans? Yes, I am going to take donations from Jewish Americans. Okay. And that's what AIPAC is. It is not anything other than Jewish Americans donating through an organization. Just like there are a number of PACs, very progressive PACs, by the way, in which very progressive people donate through a PAC and that PAC gives. And so this is part, again, of the singling out of just the Jewish organization. By the way, I don't even think they make the top 100 of PAC donations in the country, yet they're being singled out. So yes, Jim, I will continue to take donations from Jewish Americans who care about America.
You have a bill that you're working on with some of your colleagues from across the aisle to reform the Department of Homeland Security. This is something, again, you and I have discussed in the past, the need to sort of break it up because you believe it's too big. Talk to me a little bit more about that and what your bill would do.
Yeah, so for a long time, couple of years now, it's been obvious to me by talking to people from the Biden administration and talking to people from the first Trump administration, the first term when I was director of emergency management here in Florida for Governor DeSantis. It was obvious to me that DHS, while a good idea after 9/11, why it was created to try to break the walls down and make sure departments are working with each other, it had become too big, too bureaucratic, and too slow. And so, this package that I'm putting forward is the first DHS reform package. It is completely bipartisan. The first part would remove FEMA from DHS, make it an independent agency, which would make it faster. It needs to get better at response. I'm doing that with Byron Donalds. Then I have another piece of that reform package is to take TSA out and give that back to the Department of Transportation where it was before we created Homeland Security. Why? Because then we can have it with the FAA. So security in the sky, security on the ground together. And then TSA won't be used as a political football when we get into these government shutdowns. Americans won't have to worry that when DC is dysfunctional, their travel gets interrupted. And then the last one is to take Secret Service out of Homeland and give that to the White House. And I have that with Russell Fry. And I was on the assassination task force put on there by the speaker after the Butler assassination attempt against President Trump. And what was clear to me is the same failures that happened there on communications was the same failures I saw at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, my high school, dealing with communications. And it was the same issue that we had on 9/11. We have not fixed this inoperability issue where people are using different systems and can't communicate with each other. Secret Service is one of the smallest agencies in DHS. They can't get the attention they need. They can't make decisions. They need more money. They need to grow. It's not going to happen so long as it's under DHS. And as threats increase, we got to make sure, obviously, our president and vice president, especially now and on a go-forward basis, are secure. And so this would be the three areas that I would do a DHS reform package. And that would also help the other agencies within DHS by shrinking the size of government. We heard a lot about government efficiency when this administration started. They didn't really do it. This would be the first piece of government efficiency.
I do want to let you go here in a second, but I did want to ask, obviously you've sat on various committees and have actually gone viral for some of the questioning you've had of some of the Trump administration over your time in Congress. If the Democrats take back the House, if Hakeem Jeffries is Speaker and you're now in a Democratic majority, what do you think the Democrats should do in terms of pushing accountability or investigations as it relates to the Trump administration?
Well, look, we should do oversight. There hasn't been oversight for the last 18 months. Speaker Johnson has not allowed any oversight. In fact, you saw that with the Epstein issue, right? He forced Congress to do a discharge petition, which is to get all the members to sign a document so that we could have a vote on releasing those documents. That could have happened just in general oversight. We had to do this, this maneuver within Congress, which had been rarely used before. By the way, in the 119th Congress, this Congress, more discharge petitions have passed and as a result gotten a vote on the floor than any Congress in history. And so we do need to do oversight. There will be investigations as a result of that. I have questions about the Qatari plane. Why we're taking a plane from Qatar. Is that safe? What was given in return? And so there are a lot of things I think the American people want to look at. Obviously, the new news on this, $1.6 billion fund that can go to people from January 6th. I don't think Americans want to see their taxpayer dollars going to people who broke in to the Capitol on that day. So there's a lot of oversight that we should take place. But at the same time, I also think we need to focus on affordability and not just go down that we're going to investigate everything at all times for the next 2 years. We have to make sure that we have a agenda for the American people, and we got to bring down costs. I think that should be Democrats' number one focus.
And lastly, and I realize it's a difficult question, especially as we're taping this on Friday and we don't know what will happen in the next couple of days, but just overall, do you get the impression that the United States is winning or losing the war with Iran?
Well, listen, winning or losing, ultimately, we will win if we deny Iran the ability to have a nuclear weapon and we get all the uranium out of Iran. That is what defining winning is. That was the whole reason, the whole purpose the president stated for going there. And that has been this argument that we've been having in this country now for over 20 years. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It'll start a nuclear arm race in the Middle East, which would be disastrous for the world. And we must get the uranium that they have out of the country. Until that happens, it's hard to see how anything that's happened so far is a win.
Congressman, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
When we come back, after more than a year, the governor finally came forward with a plan to curb property taxes. But what does it really do? We'll talk about it on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Wednesday, Governor Ron DeSantis releases long-awaited proposal on property taxes. But his proposal falls far short of his promises. Under his proposal, the homestead exemption would increase from $50,000 to $150,000 in 2027, and then from $150,000 to $250,000 in 2028. It would then allow the legislature to increase the homestead exemption in future years. Critics argue his plan will decimate cities, counties, and local school districts. The legislature will meet in a special session starting on Monday, and if they pass it, it will then have to be approved by 60% of all voters in November. After the plan came out, I spoke to former Republican State Senator Jeff Brandes, who now leads the Florida Policy Project.
None of this is being presented with any data. None of this is being presented with any analysis on county impact, city by city impact. What happens in the trust fund? What happens if there's a recession? What happens if housing values don't stay where they are? And then who gets hurt, right? Renters get nothing out of this. And if they jack up sales tax and water and other fees, they get harmed. So I think, somebody's ox is getting gored here. We need to spend some time, figure this out. And the fact that you're going to put this out on a Wednesday and vote on it on a Monday, to me is just beyond the pale. Like this is just not how you do business in Tallahassee. I think it's pretty shocking. And I can't imagine that the House and Senate are going to just take this full on. I think once cities and counties figure out what's going on here and figure out what this really means and how much control they're losing to Tallahassee and the central government planning that's about to occur here, I think they're going to lose their minds.
Because what it does is it transfers the authority, which is right now, if you want to change property taxes, you have to do it through a constitutional
Go to the
amendment.
Constitutional Amendment. That's correct.
And it transfers it now, basically the legislature.
It basically moves it to a Tallahassee, right? And it exposes a ton of unanswered questions, right? Many of these cities and counties have bonded revenue. They've bonded their tax going forward, in order to pay for police departments and fire departments. That's what happens with that. Does it begin to affect the credit rating of cities and counties? How are the smaller cities and counties going to handle this? The ones that are predominantly homestead properties and not a lot of commercial land. These are kind of unanswered questions. Frankly, this is like the most Bush League rollout I have ever seen of a major proposal.
It's interesting. If you go back and think about the way Governor DeSantis talked about this more than a year ago, I'm going to eliminate property taxes. We can just eliminate property taxes. And then I think, and you and I have had this discussion before, I think as he got into it, it's easy rhetoric. It's an easy bumper sticker. I will eliminate all property taxes. But I think the governor faced the reality that it's not so easy. And this was the best he could come up with, as you describe it, a plan to create a plan.
Well, we saw this last year. Look, he last year vetoed the $1 million the legislature gave him to come up and study this, to come up with a real plan, to look at all of these different issues. And he vetoed that. And so I think what he's left with is this, the best I can do is punt, and I'm trying to pass something. So let's just give the legislature some flexibility and see what happens in the future. This is totally a 90-degree shift. This is a curveball from what he's been throwing all year long. And at the end of the day, what they've rolled out is not, it's so uncertain. It's hard to imagine my colleagues in the legislature aren't going to pick this thing apart.
We'll see what the legislature does next week. CBS Miami's Joan Murray will be in Tallahassee to cover the special session. Look for her reports starting on Monday. Well, that's all the time we have today. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to contact me at jdefede@cbs.com. I do enjoy hearing from you. Thanks again for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.